Hi friends, welcome back. We are into the third module, process management. Under that we are looking at process synchronization and completing that. Now we are into deadlocks. Yes, deadlocks. So deadlock is a situation where all the processes keep waiting for one another, and there are mainly four reasons, or the four conditions are to be met all together. All four conditions to be met together, only then there is possibility of deadlock. Number one, the mutual exclusion. That means the resources that are shared. To avoid race condition, any given time one resource must be attached maximum to one process. That is mutual exclusion. Of course, it has to be, to make sure that the synchronization is done properly, and to avoid race condition there will be mutual exclusion, no question of it. The second is a process can hold some resource and keep waiting for some other resource which are already held by some other process. That is the second issue. That is, a process can hold resources and keep waiting for other resources which are currently not available. That is second. Third, that is, the processes are non-preemptive in nature. Yes, of course they will be non-preemptive, because when a process is using a shared resource, it has to be in its critical section, and we have ensured in the previous sessions that the critical section will be executed in atomic way through semaphore or monitor or whatever. Some locking mechanism was ensured, and through this we have made clear that when a process is in a critical section, it cannot be preempted. And second thing is the process, if it is working with some resources and needs some other resources, and other resources are currently not available, then it will not release already locked resources. It keeps waiting for the other one. That means no preemption. The resources which are held by one process will not be released unless until the process is done with its job. Which means the resource held by any process will not be released by any external means. It has to be done by the process itself, whatever is holding it. So no preemption. And the fourth one is, there exists a circular wait. One process is waiting for a resource which is held by another process, and that process is waiting for a resource held by one more process, and thereby there is a circular wait. This is waiting for this to complete, that is waiting for another to complete, other one is waiting for one more to complete, and the last one is waiting for the first one to complete. So we have a circular wait, and this makes the deadlock possible. All four conditions, if they are met simultaneously, only then there is deadlock. So to understand any given situation is in deadlock or not, or is it going to lead to deadlock or not, we need to understand the situations. For understanding the situation, what we require is to know the situation, what processes are, what resources are, which process is working with which resource, and which process is waiting for which resource, and all that. Unless until we have all this idea, we cannot proceed further. Yeah. So let's have some formal definitions, and we have processes. Let's assume that there are n processes p1 through pn, and let's assume that there are m resources r1 through rm, and these are the two sets p and r, set of processes p, set of resources r. And then we define some requests, that is, a process is presenting a request for any resource, and then we know that some resources are already given to certain processes. So there is one request edge, that means the process is requesting for a resource. So pi arrow rj says that the process pi is requesting for resource rj, and rj is not available, therefore pi is waiting. On the other side, assignment edge, rj is assigned to pi, so the resource rj is assigned to process pi. That's what the convention is. So how to proceed further? So one way is to keep talking and talking in the oral form or in textual form, but makes almost no sense. So we need some formal representation of whatever information we have, so that we start the analysis. So let's get into. So as usual, to understand any situation, any problem solution, we do take help of a example. So let's continue the same way. We learned everything through example, so let's continue learning this problem again through an example. So let's take an example where we have a set of three processes p1, p2, p3, and there are four resources r1, r2, r3 and r4, and then we have some requests and assignments. So here the first one is a request. The process p1 is requesting for resource r1, process p2 is requesting for resource r3, r1 says p2, that means r1 is assigned to p2, r2 is assigned to p2. Okay, no problem. So the p2 may be assigned with two resources, not a issue. So r2 is assigned to p2 and again says that r2 is assigned to p1. I think there is some confusion here, so let's check out anyway. R2 is assigned to p2, r2 is assigned to p1, r3 is assigned to p3. Okay, how is that possible? So let's check what is given further in the problem. It says that one instance of resource of type r1, okay, two instances of resource, okay. So there are two instances of r2, so therefore one instance of r2 is assigned with p2, another instance of r2 is assigned with p1. Okay, no problem, done. So I don't think there is any confusion now, everything is clear now. But the issue now is to identify, is there any deadlock here? Is this situation leads to a deadlock? That's what we want to know. But how to know? So to have deadlock, four conditions to be met. Three conditions we know they are going to be confirmly met. So one, mutual exclusion. Yes, of course, without that synchronization is not possible. It will lead to race condition, therefore mutual exclusion has to be there. Second one, hold and wait. You can see that r1 is held by p2 and p2 is wanting r3. That means p2 is holding r1 and waiting for r3. So hold and wait, yes, there. No preemption, yes, of course. Till the process completes its job, it is not going to release any resource. Okay, then how about the fourth one, circular wait? So how do we know that is there any circular wait or not? So we need to understand it more clearly. So but the problem here is we have given the problem statement in a textual form, and the basic problem with the human is the human mind is very weak in understanding the textual form, but it is very good in understanding graphical form. So cognitive strength of mind is high when it comes to graphical way than textual way. So reading a sentence is bit difficult. So that's what it's often said, one picture is worth 1,000 words. Yes, of course it is, because that's how human is made to live, survive and all that. That's how the whole evolution of the human is. The brain makes use of the vision maximum, makes use of the patterns maximum to understand the situation more easily. So there we come to conclusion that the whole problem, if we could represent in some graphical way, definitely it could help us. And that's where we come to this conclusion that we need some graphical way. So we define a graph, where the graph we have the nodes and the edges. Nodes, of course, the processes and the resources can be taken as the nodes, and edges, as just defined, there is a request edge and there is an assignment edge. Yeah. So if we can convert this, whatever 3 lines are given, or is 5 lines are given as a problem, if we convert that into a graph, how does that graph look like? Yes, it looks like this. Okay, I hope we have everything, whatever is being said here. There are 3 processes. Yes, of course we have 3 processes, P1, P2, P3, done. Then they say that there are 4 resources, R1, R2, R3 and R4, done. Then it is said that one instance of R1 is there, 2 instance of R2 is there. That's what it is mentioned here. Other than that, if you look at it, we can see that 1 instance of R3 is there and 3 instance of R4 are there. Anyway, R4 are not in use currently, so no issue. But anyway, R1, P1 wants R1, P1 wants R1, done. P2 wants R3, P2 wants R3, done. R1 is assigned to P2, R1 is assigned to P2, done. R2 is assigned to P2, R2, one instance of R2 assigned to P2, done. Another instance of R2 assigned to P1, another instance of R2 assigned to P1, done. Then R3 is assigned to P3, done. Now what is the situation? The situation is, will there be a deadlock condition? So for deadlock condition, first thing, mutual exclusion. Yes, of course it is there, because we don't want race condition. Therefore we have ensured that there is mutual exclusion implemented by default, done. Now we can see that P1 has R2 and waiting for R1, P2 has R1 R2 waiting for R3. So that means hold and wait exist, and there is definitely no preemption. That means till P1 completes its job, it is not going to release this instance of R2. If P2 does not complete its job, it is not going to release R1 or this instance of R2. Until P3 completes its job, this R3 will not be released. So definitely there is no preemption here. But is there any loop? Let's just check out. Any close waiting. So in that case, you just look at that as a simple thing. P3 is requiring only R3, so it doesn't have any problem to complete its job. So P3 completes its job, then R3 becomes free. If R3 is free, then P2 can get R3, and if P2 can get R3, then it will have all the 3 required. So P2 completes its job, then will release R1. If R1 is released, then P1 will get R1, and P1 will also complete its job. Therefore P1, P2, P3, all of them can complete their job. Only the sequence is first P3 will complete, then P2 will complete, and finally P1 will complete. Anyway, whatever be the sequence, we are sure that they are going to complete, and hence there is no deadlock situation, because there is no circular wait and then we can say that there is no deadlock in this case. So let's look at more formally now. So the same problem we are taking. So P3 wants R3. It has got R3, therefore P3 will run it and finally releases R3, and that R3 was wanted by P2 and it will get it. So P2 now have R1, R2, R3 all, so therefore P2 will run and then release R1, R2, R3 all three, and then P1 gets R1 and then it will run P1 also. So P1, P2, P3 all three are run, hence there is no deadlock. Want to have more clearer picture? Okay, let us trace it graphically because we are more compatible with a graphical way of understanding than textual way of understanding. So let's look at this animation. So P3 wanted R3, it has got R3, so it will run. P3 completes its task. So once P3 is done, R3 is free. Then P2 has got R3, R1, R2 were already with them, therefore P2 can complete its job. Done. Then R1, R2, R3 all three gets released, and now R1 is free, so R1 will be available to P1, so P1 gets R1, R2 both, and therefore P1 also gets executed. So P1, P2, P3 everything gets executed, so no question of deadlock at all. Done? Right. Now when you say there is deadlock, let's check out again one more example with a little modification in the previous problem. Just one more thing is added here. This P3 wants R2. Just by adding one more request, what would change? So R2 is with P1, P1 wants R1, R1 with P2, P2 wants R3, R3 is with P3, and P3 wants R2. So R2 one instance is with P1, no issue, but can we run P1? No, because it is waiting for R1. Is R1 available? No, because it is with P2. So can we run P2? No, because it is waiting for R3. Is R3 available? No, because it is with P3. So can P3 run? No, because it is waiting for R2. Is R2 available? No, because if P1 runs, then R2 will be available, or if P2 runs, R2 will be available. For P1 to run, R1 was required, which is not available. For P2 to run, R3 was required, which is also not available. Therefore, neither of these two instances can be made available even in the future. Therefore, P3 will never get a chance to complete. If P3 cannot complete, then R3 cannot be released. If R3 cannot be released, then P2 cannot complete. If P2 cannot complete, then R1 cannot be released. If R1 cannot release, P1 cannot release. Therefore, in this way, P1, P2, P3, all of them are waiting and waiting and waiting. So that is deadlock. We have one more deadlock situation here, that is the other closed loop if you look at it. So P2 is having R2, P2 is waiting for R3, R3 is with P3, and P3 is waiting for R2. So this is another loop. Whatever it is, you find two loops here. P1 is waiting for R1, R1 is with P2, P2 is waiting for R3, R3 is with P3, P3 is waiting for R2, and R2 is with P1. That is the orange cycle. And there is another one, P2 is waiting for R3, R3 is with P3, P3 is waiting for R2, R2 is with P2. So there is another cycle. So two cycles, and these two cycles are waiting cycles, and because of that all four conditions are met. The first three conditions as it is, they are going to be met because mutual exclusion compulsorily required for race conditions, and here we are allowing the process to hold and then wait for others. So there is, and we are making sure that till the process completes its job, it is not going to release any resources, so no preemption. And we have seen that there are two circular waits here, and hence there is deadlock here. But deadlock always doesn't mean that if there is a loop there will be deadlock. So let's check up another situation. There is, you can find a loop, so there you can find a loop, but will this be a deadlock? So let's check out. So look for P2. P2 just wants one instance of R1 which is already having, and hence it will complete its job, and that instance of R1 is released, and that instance of R1 will P1 will get, and therefore P1 will also complete its job. Then it will release R1 as well as R2. Then this R2, the P3 was waiting, so R2, P2 will get this R2 and it will also complete. As far as P4 was concerned, we don't have to wait for all this thing to happen. P4 and P2 directly could have done independently, because whatever they wanted they were already having. P2 wanted R1, P4 wanted one instance of R2, therefore they had, so parallelly they could have done, but P1 and P3 have to wait. So P4 parallelly also will run, so there is definitely no deadlock because all jobs are done. So that's what we are talking about. That's how this graph, resource allocation graph, will help us in analyzing the situation, will checking whether there is any deadlock and all. So let me summarize. For deadlock, 4 situations are required, and all 4 have to be met simultaneously. 1. Mutual exclusion. 2. Hold and wait. 3. No preemption. And 4. Circular wait. If all 4 are there together, only then there is deadlock. Even if one of them is not there, no chance of deadlock. So hope you found this interesting, and make sure to like, share, do comment, and subscribe, and please hit the bell icon for the next coming episodes. So that's it for now. Thank you.